Hi, When in Spain listeners, it's Paul Burge here. I say listeners, obviously this is a video, so welcome When in Spain viewers. I thought I would make a video to wish you all a very Feliz Navidad, Felices Fiestas, wherever you're listening from. So a very happy Christmas from me. The purpose of this video is to really reflect on the last 6 months of the When in Spain podcast, but also to share a few thoughts about what's going to be coming up next year for When in Spain in 2019, and just to share really a few reflections and observations from my point of view of making the When in Spain podcast during the last 6 months. I started back in June, and here we are 5 days before Christmas. It is the 4 days before Christmas, it's the 21st today. I still haven't even started any Christmas shopping, which is what I will be doing this evening, I expect. 6 months has flown by. When I started this podcast back in the summer, I'd never ever made a podcast before in my life. I was completely new to it. I think I was a bit naive, but I've really enjoyed the whole process so far. And I think really one thing I've realised is just how time-consuming making a podcast can be. I've had tons of ideas for podcasts that I've wanted to produce and still want to produce in the future, but it's having the time to find the people to talk to do the research, to actually record the podcast, but not only that, really just editing, publishing, all of the post-production, all of the fine-tuning and this kind of thing. I didn't realise how time-consuming it was, really. So I know, as you may, some of you listeners, regular listeners, may have realised, certainly during the last couple of months, my publishing has been a bit more erratic due to work commitments. So that is something I'm hoping to get on top of in the new year. When I started the podcast back in June, I was on a summer holiday, and so I had tons of time, and then of course come September I was working again, so didn't have as much time to devote to the podcast. Of course, thank you so much for listening. I think last count, the When in Spain podcast is being listened to in something like, how many was it? 78 countries, I think, now, all around the world. So that's fantastic. It's really nice to hear from all of you guys, the listeners, from wherever you are. I've had lots of fantastic feedback, emails, from people wanting to meet up here in Madrid. I've had advice and recommendations from other places in the world that I've travelled to from listeners, When in Spain listeners from those countries. So that's been really, really interesting. So looking back on the last 6 months, I think I've attempted to give quite a broad range of different podcast episodes. Anything from how-to guides, how to open a bank account, how to get your NIE, looking for places to live. I've taken you to Asturias. We've done quite a few podcasts set here in Madrid. Observations, what else have we done? Spanish beer. I recorded an episode speaking to my Spanish friends who live back in my hometown in Oxford, comparing Spanish and English culture. I've done an episode about the trials and tribulations of trying to learn Spanish as a second language with Melissa Dura from her blog Speaking Spanglish. What else have we done? I've taken you around various markets. I've looked at the Spanish timetable, siestas, fiestas, well, not really, but more about the working timetable, meal times, these kinds of things that I still struggle with quite a bit, actually. What else have we looked at? Shopping. What else? Yes, travel. I've done a bit about, I took you on the AVE up to Barcelona, looking at the fantastic AVE and train network in Spain. Hope to do a bit more travelling around Spain in the new year. What else have we done? Yes, bullfighting. Wow, I got a lot of stick for going to a bullfight, which I can kind of understand. I didn't enjoy it particularly at all, but it was something that I felt that I wanted to investigate, that I wanted to look at in some detail, really to find out what it's like, why people are so still, so passionate about it. So I went with a friend of mine who is a very big bullfighting fan, grew up with it. We've agreed to disagree, but he took me, and I thought it was an experience that was worth seeing with my own eyes to bring you guys, the listeners, a real perspective on bullfighting in Spain. And to look at the tradition, the history behind it, and the future of bullfighting. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I would suggest listening to it, whatever your views on bullfighting might be, because during the research for the episode, I found out quite a lot of interesting things that I didn't know about bullfighting. The history is quite interesting. The future of bullfighting is, I don't know, hangs in the balance. We don't know yet, really. It's on the wane. It's declining in popularity. Whether it will totally disappear in the next, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 50 years, who knows. But I was intrigued. I got a lot of stick for attending a bullfight, which I was kind of surprised about, actually. I thought, people who had messaged me saying that I should be absolutely disgusted with myself for going, that I was complicit in supporting bullfighting by going to a bullfight. What else? That people who decided to stop following the podcast, stop listening to the podcast based on that one episode. And of course, everyone is entitled to their opinions. I always welcome opinions on anything that I talk about in the series. And as always, these are my observations. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm not speaking for all people who've moved to Spain. I'm certainly not speaking for all Spaniards. But yeah, I thought that was a bit strange to just stop listening to the podcast because I produced a podcast on bullfighting. The way I look at it is I went for investigative purposes. And I think if you're going to criticize something, or you're going to do it justice in terms of reporting on it, you should really go and see it with your own eyes, not just, based on other people's opinions. So that's why I went and saw it. And it's kind of a shame that some people felt that they had to stop listening to the podcast series because I went. I think it's a bit like if a TV network, let's say the BBC, attend a neo-Nazi rally to report on it. Do you suddenly stop listening to or watching the BBC because they went there? Does that mean they were supporting it? So that's how I saw it. But anyway, no, I wasn't a fan, and I won't be returning to any bullfights. But it was something that seems so very ingrained in Spanish tradition still, and something that people always think of when they think of Spain, bullfighting. What else? The most popular episode. Any guesses? The most downloaded episode that I produced in the last 6 months was the one where I met Ben and Marina, Ben Curtis and Marina Diez, who are long-time podcasters. And I met them to talk about, they produce a podcast, as I'm sure many of you know and are very familiar with, called Notes in Spanish. It's a podcast that's designed to help people learn and improve their Spanish. Absolutely fantastic. I used it tons and tons when I was first learning Spanish before I moved to Spain. Ben Curtis also many years ago, I don't know, over 10 years ago now, in the mid-2000s, started producing a podcast called Notes from Spain. And that, for me, really, part of that was Notes from Spain was some inspiration for me to start my own podcast called Notes, When in Spain. I've forgotten the name of my own podcast. That was quite a lot of that was inspired me to set up my own podcast series called When in Spain, purely because I used to love listening to Ben Curtis's Notes from Spain series. It used to when I was living in the dark days of London and drizzly, miserable winter nights that used to transport me here to Madrid in Spain, and he stopped doing it. He gave up doing it, which I was, me and I think many other listeners were slightly upset about because we really enjoyed listening to it. So anyway, that was the most downloaded episode. It was great to meet them in person. Absolutely lovely couple. They are still continuing to produce new episodes and new materials for their When in Spain. It's a Christmas stress. They continue to produce new materials and episodes for their Notes in Spanish podcast series. So if you're still learning Spanish, as I think probably we all are, I certainly am, check it out. They've got new material available there. But that was the most popular episode. Obviously, they're very well known with Spanish people who are interested in Spain, Spanish learners, Spanish speakers, that kind of thing. What else? That's a little roundup of the last 6 months. I think we're at 25 episodes. And I hope to bring you another 25 episodes easily during the next 6 months. What else did I want to say? Looking ahead, you might think, why am I doing a video and not a usual podcast? Well, this hello to you guys and a wish you a very happy Christmas video is a little warm-up for me, because hopefully just before Christmas, in the next couple of days, and certainly in the new year, I'm starting a YouTube channel. And what I hope to do with the When in Spain YouTube channel is bring you more of the same, but obviously in a video format. So not only do you get to hear the sounds of Spain, that I can actually take you around various places in Madrid, in other parts of Spain, other cities, so you can actually see the experiences with your own eyes. That's the plan. So when I produce a podcast, I will hopefully, time permitting, be able to produce a When in Spain YouTube video as well to accompany it. They might be slightly different, or they might be the same. What I might do is produce a YouTube video only and use the audio, or some weeks I might not produce a YouTube video. It'd just be the regular When in Spain podcast. We'll see how it goes. I'm really excited to get started producing video though, and we'll see. I think my plan is to bring you the first When in Spain YouTube video. Well, I think I might go and do some recording after this video this evening, and looking at a very Spanish Christmas, I think I'll call it, and it's going to be looking at what it's like to celebrate Christmas in Spain, Christmas traditions, those kinds of things, food, what people do, and comparing it a little bit to, well, the kind of Christmases, I guess, that I'm more used to back in the UK. So that will be the first YouTube video. The YouTube channel is already up and running. All you need to do is search When in Spain on YouTube. And I've already uploaded a few, well, I say videos, they're not really videos. What I've done is converted some of the When in Spain podcast episodes into videos, and I've uploaded them on there just in case people want to listen to them on YouTube. I don't know if more YouTube fans will discover the podcast through the YouTube channel. So at the moment there's just audio on the YouTube channel, but the first video will be coming up hopefully, well, before Christmas. Before Christmas, I hope to get it edited and posted on YouTube. I will obviously Facebook page and Facebook group, so you know when it's available. Well, hopefully you'll be able, if you're a Facebook page or group, you'll be able to watch the video directly there on the Facebook page. What else? Yeah, talking of the Facebook page and the Facebook group more specifically, we get more and more members trickling in each week. I always try to give them a personal welcome and say hello. Please don't be shy in using the group to ask questions, ask for advice, that kind of thing, or give me feedback as well about things you'd like me to cover in future episodes. Even if I don't respond to you, I'd definitely note down and take account of all of your ideas and all of your feedback that you pass on to me. In terms of the Facebook group, I'm really hoping to be more active on the Facebook group with more weekly polls, more articles. I want to be asking you guys more questions about your opinions on things in Spain, life in Spain, your own observations. And I will be sharing a lot more of my observations on the page as well. So I'm hoping that the Facebook group will become more and more active. It is already active, and it's becoming more so. But as they say in Spanish, in 2019 is going to be más y mejor, more and better, as we get into the new year. Don't forget, you can always follow When in Spain on Instagram. There's tons of photos. I love taking photos. I don't consider myself by any means professional. I love sharing photographs, and I love taking photographs around Spain. And also, if you're an Instagram user, don't forget you can share your photos to the When in Spain group on Instagram as well. So they appear on the When in Spain Instagram page. What else? Twitter. Yeah, we're on Twitter. I don't use Twitter much at the moment to promote When in Spain, unfortunately. I don't know. Doesn't seem to be working for When in Spain on Twitter. As I say, Facebook and Instagram seem to be where it's at. What else forgot to tell you? Well, nothing else really. I think that's it. So, new YouTube videos coming up. Podcast will be continuing as usual. I really hope to be able to bring you it with more frequency, less gaps. And I'm also, as I speak about the podcast, I'm planning to publish now on a Monday. So I'm going to aim for Mondays for podcast publishing day. I know probably for a lot of you it doesn't matter which day it's published. If you're subscribed, it will automatically drop down into your YouTube and into your podcast platform, wherever you listen to it. But I know some listeners like to know when it's going to be published, so they kind of make an appointment to listen to the podcast. So, and I totally understand that. As I say, it's been a lot more time consuming than I had imagined, especially lately with the run up to Christmas, the last couple of months with my work. With teaching, with freelance, with other things, lots of other commitments. I just have not been able to get the podcast out on the usual Wednesday deadline. Sorry about that. Please don't think that I've given up podcasting. I haven't. If anything, I would moving to the next stage and starting with YouTube. Just because I'm moving and starting YouTube videos does not mean that the podcast will eventually disappear. For me, and this has always been the case, When in Spain is first and foremost a podcast, and I want it to stay that way. But I've always, I come from a broadcasting journalism background, so I've always loved radio, and audio has always been my first love. But I'm also have a love for shooting and filming as well. So I'm going to try it. We'll see how it goes. So I will post a note on the Facebook groups. Let you know when the first video is published. The first one, I'm going to be taking you around the Christmas market in Plaza Mayor. I'm going to be taking you around other parts of Madrid, looking at food and drink, which is traditional at Christmas. And I will be looking at specific Christmas traditions. Some of them are a bit strange, some of them are quite nice. Be taking you and looking at what children get up to around Christmas, and hopefully bringing you sights and sounds from Madrid around Christmas. It's a bit chilly out there, so I'm probably wrapped up quite warm. Nothing else to say except thank you as always to all the regular listeners who continue to subscribe and follow the When in Spain podcast. I hope you also head over and are as supportive as you have been with the podcast with the new YouTube channel. So I'll leave it there. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Keep your eyes open for the new video, and I will speak to you again very soon. Until then, hasta luego.